today with us, we have some really special, wonderful people who are with YWAM Deaf World. So in missions today, something that's not often widely known is that one of the largest demographics in the world that are unreached are the deaf, and there are over 70 million deaf in the world. So in the United States, where the gospel is a lot more widely available, there are only roughly about 2% believers who are deaf in the United States, which is crazy because there's so many churches in our country. There's so many believers. Like, how on earth are there only like 2% of believers among the deaf in the United States? So just imagine around the world what that looks like. And also, there's not just one sign language. There's actually roughly 400 different sign languages all around the world. And when you get to really remote parts of the world, you'll find a village where there's a deaf guy and he didn't grow up with a sign language. And so imagine that you are on an outreach in another country and you're with a team and you find a guy who is deaf and doesn't speak a local sign language. How do you explain the gospel to him? Like, does he need to learn sign language before he ever finds out about Jesus? Like, what do you do? So that is a super loaded question that I have brought our friends on today to talk about because they have made headway into this very question, or actually finding breakthrough in how do you share the gospel with someone like that? So I'm excited for today. So I have with us here today Dan and Carol McLeland, and they have been with Youth with a Mission with YWAM for how many years now?
14 years with YWAM.
14 years with YWAM. Okay, and with YWAM Deaf World?
12 years working with the deaf.
Okay, amazing. So how did you guys get started, first of all, working with the deaf, but then second of all, in like reaching the deaf in missions? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I'm going to turn it over to my wife. She's going to share a little bit about that.
Hello, I'm Carol.
Get your mic.
Awesome. Hello. Hello.
We're ready.
Okay, awesome. Yes. Wow, I was in college and I had just become a believer and I was volunteering at a homeless shelter. And I was super excited to share Jesus, who had changed my life. And one day there was a deaf person that came into our homeless shelter facility, and all of us staff had no idea what to do. And my boss was like, I have no idea what to do. Carol, you're a teacher major. You have patience. You can figure this out. Go figure it out. And I was just like, okay. And I went over there and I did all of the wrong things. Hello. Hi. How are you? All of the wrong things. I made all the mistakes right here. But it was through that interaction that this woman who became my friend, introduced me to a beautiful community of people that changed my whole life trajectory. She came in, I saw that she knew sign language, and I asked her to teach me a little bit of sign, and it was something that I just connected with so quickly. We met every Saturday at the homeless shelter, and she just taught me sign language. She actually owned 5 things, and one of the things that she owned was a sign language teaching book, how to teach sign language. And that was it. I got connected with her. She got connected back with her family and got off the streets. And as she moved on with her family, I was like, where are more deaf people? Where can I learn more sign language? I want to get involved with this. And it just really was cool when I found out the percentages and statistics that you just shared, because I already had a passion for missions and sharing my faith. And now I just found a community of people that haven't heard Jesus, and I was learning the language to be able to communicate with them. And so that's how we got involved. And then a couple of years later, after I went to Gallaudet, got my master's degree in deaf education, I was doing my internship, and I met this guy who didn't know any sign language, but because he really liked me, he started learning sign language. And he started learning, and God called us both into missions a year later after we got married. And it was, I'll let my husband continue the story after that.
So The way that I found out about you guys was through a video that showed up in my inbox, like, I don't know if it was a year and a half ago or something like that. But I watched this video. First of all, I didn't know that there were YWAM like missions outreach teams that were all deaf. And so this was my first time hearing about this. I was with YWAM for a number of years. And so I was like, wait a second, there's actually YWAM bases that have deaf staff and do deaf outreaches. This is really exciting. So I watched this video, and they're going to tell the story in a second, but this video shook me because they figured out how to explain the gospel to a guy who did not speak a local deaf language. And this guy was deaf, and Jesus changed his life. And it shook me because I was like, oh my goodness, God has made the gospel so simple that even if you have even though you guys didn't speak the same sign language and he didn't have a sign language, he was able to get it. And there was transformation in his life.